when I see the young ladies on campus and they want to talk to me or they want to ask, how did you get to be a chancellor? Then I take the time and I talk to them because I believe in pouring into the future, pouring into those who want to know, who want to learn from us, from me, from other women on campus that are strong leaders. All of that is critical in their development.
Hello, and welcome to Revolutionary Leadership, the bi-weekly podcast that shines a spotlight on the visionary leadership approaches Black women have cultivated for generations, yet are too often overlooked. I'm Dr. Kerry Mitchell Brown, a culture architect, racial equity strategist, and scholar of organizational change. For more than 20 years, I have helped leaders, organizations, and communities reimagine what's possible when equity and authenticity guide the way. Each episode will dive deep into conversations that illuminate how Black women integrate community care, radical self-prioritization, and collective capacity building into transformative leadership practices. Together, we'll expand what leadership can look like and what liberation through leadership truly means. Because this is where Black women's stories become tomorrow's blueprints. Welcome to Revolutionary Leadership, where Black women's stories become tomorrow's blueprints. What does it actually take to walk into an institution that others have written off and build something undeniable? Not with unlimited resources, not with a mandate from everyone in the room, but with strategy, a commitment to students, and a willingness to lead through uncertainty when the stakes are high as they get. My guest today is Chancellor Dr. Karrie G. Dixon, a trailblazer in higher education and one of the most accomplished HBCU leaders in the country. Dr. Dixon is the Chancellor of North Carolina Central University, a historically Black university in the UNC system based in Durham, North Carolina. She is the first woman to lead two UNC systems public universities in the state and only the second woman chancellor in NCCU's history. At Elizabeth City State University, she inherited an institution widely described as being on life support. Under her leadership, ECSU achieved a nearly 70% enrollment increase and unlocked significant public and private investment. At NCCU, just 18 months in, she is delivering record enrollment, improved student success outcomes, and stronger financial stewardship. And she launched the first AI Institute at a historically Black university. Chancellor Dixon, I am so glad you're here.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be a part of your podcast today.
So exciting. Hey, before we go any further, I want to ask you, what are you drinking as we warm up for this conversation?
Well, my go-to drink is hot tea. I love hot tea in the morning. I also love it late in the evening when it's time to wind down. So that's my go-to drink. I love a hot tea. I'm not a coffee drinker, but definitely hot tea.
I am not a coffee drinker either, and people are always so surprised that I've drank coffee once in my lifetime. Didn't enjoy it, so I did not have to do it again.
Well, I have the same experience.
I love it. I love it. Okay, let us start with some rapid fire questions to get to know you. So, one, what is the first thing you know now about crisis leadership that you wish you had known at 43 when you stepped into the first chancellor role?
One thing that I learned about crisis leadership is it's okay to accept what it is that you're dealing with at that particular time and stay focused on the main thing. And with crisis leadership, it has definitely taught me that it's okay to confront your challenges, just have a plan, be strategic, and be intentional in how you address the challenge.
Okay. When people look at the ECSU turnaround and call it a success, what are they crediting that actually had nothing to do with it?
I think sometime as women, we make leadership look easy. And especially when you are confronted with challenges and you are there to transform and to lead with courageous leadership, sometimes we make it look a little too easy. So I would
Yeah.
say, just really being transparent about what it takes to really be a transformational leader.
Nice. And the final one. What is one leadership practice that has become non negotiable for you?
Good question. I think a leadership practice that has become non-negotiable for me is being able to build my own team, looking at who and what I feel is necessary, the skill set, the experiences to bring to the table to help me identify the direction in which we want to go. But those perspectives coming from different people is very critical to the success of any leader. And so I really value the team building piece of leadership.
Great. Let's dive in deep. I want to start at the beginning of this particular chapter of your leadership when you were named Chancellor of Elizabeth City State University. The institution was being described in terms that will make most leaders pause. On life support were the words people use. You told me you weren't sure if you were the right person for that moment. What happened inside you when you decided to say yes?
Well, to your point, as I reflect back, I always think of the time or the period of time when I was first approached about this leadership opportunity at Elizabeth City State University. And I did have some doubt. I had some doubt because I had never been a chancellor before.
Mm,
I also had mentors and others who were saying, "Do you really want this to be your first job as a chancellor?" And as we develop and go to these conferences and programs that help leadership development, they always say you don't want to go into something that's way above your head as your first opportunity. Being that the university was being described as being on life support, the university had a number of challenges from the standpoint of 60% loss in enrollment,
mm.
17 audit findings that went very public, and then being put on warning for accreditation. So those are 3 major challenges
Major
that
storms.
really, yes, that
Yes.
build a crisis that, really reflects on whether or not this university should be sustained, whether or not it should still be supported as a state and public institution. And so when I was asked, all these things are going through my head. Like, is this really, at 43 years old, someone who, of course, had some really great experiences, being a vice president in the UNC system, working with 17 constituent institutions. I had those experiences, but I wasn't sure within myself if this was something I wanted to take on. And I was also at the time a wife and a mother of young children. And so when you look at women in leadership, those factors really come into play as we think about what we want our career trajectory to look like.
Yes.
Taking this on as a first time chancellor, I knew this was not going to be a sit behind your desk type of position. This was going to be a roll your sleeves up, get out there, understand the culture of the campus, understand the situation that the university was in,
Mhm.
and then coming up with an opportunity to build a team that was gonna help push this university forward in a transformative way. My experience across the UNC system, I'd been in higher education at the time over 20 years
Wow.
in the UNC system, in public education. So I knew I had to go back to some of the experiences, the people, understanding how to maximize effectiveness and efficiency, and really put that into play when I took on the job at ECSU.
So you mentioned that your 10 plus years at the UNC system office, so working across the 17 institutions you named, prepared you in ways you didn't realize or recognize at the time. My research consistently shows that leadership capacity we build in supporting roles often exceed what we give ourselves credit for.
Yes.
What was that preparation actually like in practice when you were making the first calls at ECSU?
Well, that 10 plus years at the system office, I have to start even before then. So I was actually on a campus when I was asked to come to the system office to serve in an interim role
Okay.
as assistant vice president for academic and student affairs. At the institution I was in prior, I was teaching, I was in the classroom, I was doing research, I was
Uh-huh.
leading campus level initiatives, and to move from the campus into the system office was like moving night and day.
I can imagine.
System office is more, we don't have students, we don't have faculty. It's more of a business ran organization. So that business acumen had to definitely come into play. And I had to look at higher education from a macro level. And I remember my former chancellor telling me, you must go because this will be a training ground for you as you think about years to come in higher education. And I have to also mention that at the time, Erskine Bowles served as president of the UNC system, and Dr. Harold Martin, who just recently retired from North Carolina A&T State University,
Yes.
was the senior vice president at the time. And I remember taking that call from Harold, not ever meeting him in my life. And he's like, I heard about you. I heard you're good at what you do. You have a strong work ethic. I want you to come to the system office and take on this interim role. So I actually thought going to the system office, I was only going to be there for a year. Well, that year turned into 10. And
Yes.
across that 10 years, of course, several promotions where my last position with the system office was vice president for academic and student affairs.
Mhm.
So it was definitely a training ground for me. I got to work with all 17 institutions, more specifically, our five public HBCUs that
Yes.
are constituent institutions of the University of North Carolina system. And it just opened my mind up to what it takes to run a campus. So I was able to see the good, the bad, and the ugly in what leadership and how leadership plays out across that 10 years. I was also able to work with other educational agencies. So I worked with the community college system. I worked with the Department of Public Instruction, which is K 12 in North Carolina, and I've worked with the legislature. So it really opened opportunities and experience that I would not have been able to gain if I would have stayed where I was on campus at that particular time. So as I think back, all of those experiences, working with those various agencies, working with the 17 institutions, their leadership, the 17 chancellors, the 17 vice chancellors, the provost, really equipped me and gave me the necessary training and experience that I needed to do the work that I did at ECSU and that I'm doing at NCCU. So I'm very grateful for that experience.
Yes. Yes, it sounds like it was a match made in heaven and you had all of the prerequisites there to ensure that you were successful. You talked about building a team was super important, like building your own team. And let's talk about building a team when trust has eroded and resources are scarce. That's one of the hardest things in institutional leadership. What did you look for in people around you during that period?
When I started at Elizabeth City State University, at that particular time, the university had 5 chancellors in 5 years. So I was the 5th chancellor in 5 years. So
Wow.
when you think about the instability of leadership and how that can also contribute to some of the challenges the university was facing, I knew that I needed to build trust. I needed to build trust with the community. I needed to build trust with the alumni. I needed to build trust with the faculty, staff, and the students. Sometimes it's very easy to sit in your office at a system level position and look at the challenges and offer strategy for the challenges. But until you get in a place where you are on campus, where you are in the community, it really all comes clear as to what it is and why it's so important to do all you can to make sure that this university survives. And that's how I felt when I first stepped foot in the Elizabeth City community and on the Elizabeth City State campus is I knew I had to build trust. I was coming from the system office. I was a non-traditional person from the standpoint of academia. And so that trust was very important, but how I built trust is that I was very vocal in helping those around me understand that I lead with transparency, that I was gonna do things that are gonna be a little different, but I was gonna tell you about it. So it wouldn't be a surprise and you wouldn't be blindsided. Part of that is building the team. When I started there, my cabinet had 17 people on the cabinet, and they were all men and 1 woman. And I said, the first thing is this cabin is way too large. So the organization was flat. We needed not to be a flat organization. We needed to look at restructuring and make sure that there are ample layers. And also, I needed a team around me that I could trust from the standpoint of experiences and skills. And so when I started hiring people on my cabinet, I knew right away that I did not want a lot of yes people around me. I wanted
Right.
people who were going to tell me what they felt when decisions were being made. Ultimately, I know I have the decision, I have the authority to make the decision, but I don't claim to know everything. And I love to hear different perspectives. So, having a team around me who brought a clear out approach, who brought information, a historic approach of context to me and had me look at things a little differently that and look at things in ways that I may not have even thought about, was really good because it creates good dialogue, it creates good synergy, and it helps me to stand firm on the decision ultimately that I will make because I felt like at that particular time when you have people around you to offer different perspectives and different opinions, you see the whole picture and you see
Yeah.
the picture in various ways. So I was very happy to build my team.
Mhm.
My team stayed with me the entire time. I had a couple retire and one in the 5th year that I was there at Elizabeth City State go off to do another position at another institution. But we were a tight-knit group. We had a lot of good times. We had some bad times, but
Yeah.
we made it through. And that's
Right.
what it means to build a team and to lead a team who wake up every morning wanting to do the best thing for the institution that you're leading. And so I was very appreciative and grateful to build a team of that status.
That is so powerful. And I love how you described your positionality as a leader from being in a place of learning it all and not knowing it all. And so that
Exactly.
opens up so much goodwill for people to be engaged. You are the first woman to lead two, not one, but two UNC system public universities in North Carolina. In our earlier conversation, you drew a parallel to the Black church
Yes.
where institutions, including HBCUs, where the question of whether a woman belonging in leadership hasn't fully settled. I want to sit in that for a moment. What does skepticism actually look like when you are the chancellor?
So when I think about some of the skepticism I faced, a lot of it, as I mentioned, first and foremost was around trust, helping to build that trust. And as I mentioned, really looking at building a platform for transparency in leadership. And when I think about the fact that we are in 2026
Yes.
and women are still becoming the first.
Yes.
And when I talk to women about this, women who are pursuing leadership, I always say to them, when you break the glass ceiling, when it's shattered, leave it shattered because
Hmm.
we have to bring other women through that shattered ceiling and be able to encourage and empower them to take it on. I am one who always believes in passing the baton and
Yes.
looking at ways in which we can build a pipeline of women leaders. Women, we don't always have it easy when it comes to
No.
leadership because there are still some of the mindset that women should not lead. And as I think about the HBCUs and our affiliation, and mainly the private HBCUs with the Black church and how we have taken on some of the governance structure of the Black church and knowing
Absolutely.
that there are still people in the church who don't
Hmm.
believe women should be in the pulpit.
Pulpit. Yeah.
And so that is grounded in this thought process that some trustees who are hiring chancellors and presidents still have in their minds. What I have experienced is when you look at higher education and you look at institutions that have maybe in crisis situations or
Mhm.
face challenges, women go in and clean it up. And that's what I mean about sometimes as women, we make it look too easy.
Yes,
And it's
yes.
not easy, but we look at things in a way that we value who we are. We value the fact that we can be our authentic self and not have to, as some people say, act like a man. We don't have to do that. We can be courageous leaders and be as authentic as we want to be, but we have to have people around us who help shape the direction in which we want to go. We have to have people who are strategic thinkers that align with our strategic thinking and with being intentional about what we're going to accomplish, what the vision is, how to articulate that, and how to move forward. There are many situations where women have been let go as leaders of institutions, specifically HBCUs. I remember it was 1 year listening to my colleagues, we had at least 6 that
Wow.
were let go because their boards did not feel they were either doing a good job or were in line with the vision of the board. But that's a whole 'nother,
That's a whole 'nother
conversation,
yes,
yes, when it
yes.
comes to the expectation of board members and how that
Mhm.
plays into the success of a chancellor or a president. I do believe that when you choose someone to lead your institution, you must be willing to support that person. You
Absolutely.
can't give up on that person in 6 months or a year.
Right.
If there are things that are not aligned with what the board wants to see, have the conversation. But often it plays out in the public arena where it looks as though we are not supporting women or we are not giving women the same type of support
Grace.
and encouragement to be successful as sometimes men are, and grace. I would say the same grace that sometimes men get that women don't. And so I definitely think that we have a lot of work to do. We still have
Absolutely.
institutions who have never had a woman lead the institutions in general, as well as HBCUs. I want to say ACE put out a statistic less than 32% of leaders now across the country are women in leading institutions. And when you look at African American, Black, and Brown
Mhm.
leaders, is less than 4%. And
Yeah.
so we still have a lot of work to do in that area to build women in leadership and to give them opportunity and access to opportunity and pour into them the understanding that the support is there and we want you to be supported and feel supported and do the job as we know you can do.
I mean, this takes me back to our first episode around the savior scapegoat archetype trap that speaks directly to what you were naming the way Black women in institutional leadership get positioned as a person brought in to fix what others broke and then face scrutiny the moment that the work gets hard or the timeline is unreasonable. Like, how do you turn around something in 8 months that has been broken for 8 years? But you were the second woman chancellor at NCCU, where you are now, not the first. I'm curious what changes between the first and the second and what stays exactly the same.
So I was actually the second female chancellor at Elizabeth City State also.
Oh,
And
okay.
so, yes, the second at Elizabeth City State and the second at NCCU. And what I would say is at NCCU, I had the privilege of knowing the first permanent woman who led North Carolina Central University,
Mhm.
Dr. Deb Saunders White, and knowing her on a personal and professional level. I met Deb when I was at the system office, and
Uh-huh.
I was there when she was named chancellor, the first woman of the NCCU. So it feels great to be able to align with this notion of the work that she started.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, she had an untimely death that the university experienced, but her spirit continues to live on this campus. And as I reflect back, Deb definitely had students first as one of her priorities. She was the chancellor that was out there meeting the students, getting to know the alumni, She was so excited to lead NCCU. It just warms my heart to know that I am the second permanent female chancellor here at NCCU and that I follow in the footsteps of such a great leader, Dr. Deb Saunders White. It feels good because I am, just as Deb was, encouraging women on campus just by seeing us in the position. And here at North Carolina Central, our percentage of women significantly outnumbers our percentage of men on campus. So when I see the young ladies on campus and they want to talk to me or they want to ask, how did you get to be a chancellor? Then I take the time and I talk to them because I believe in pouring into the future, pouring into those who want to know, who want to learn from us, from me, from other women on campus that are strong leaders. All of that is critical in their development. And even from the standpoint of the young men that I meet on campus,
Mhm.
I encourage them. I want them to continue to be successful. I want them to
Right.
do great things. So the students first is one sense of priority that I would say I'm continuing on as part of the legacy of Dr. Deb Saunders White. So it's been a great privilege to lead 2 institutions where I was not the first permanent woman, but I was able to make an impact on those campuses in a way that, showed the strength of leadership when it comes to women leading these universities, and to be the first woman to lead 2 UNC
Yes.
campuses was
Yes.
something I never even thought about. I didn't even realize that that was the case until after I was named chancellor at NCCU is when I realized, oh, someone told me, "Hey, you're the first permanent woman to lead 2 UNC campus." I said, "Oh, really? I didn't even think about it."
Thank you very
Um,
much.
yes,
Yes.
thank you very much. But, so I did finally get that first. It's been great.
That's so great. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all of those gems. I wanna pick up on something that you said, and you also said it in an earlier conversation, and it's sticking with me. You said you didn't identify mentors early enough in your career, and that you find yourself thinking back to things you probably would have done differently if you had the guidance. And I also hear that you are being mentors and changing the way that students and community members and board members think about women in leadership. And I hear this across every sector that I work in on wishing to have mentors early. What did that gap actually cost you? And how has it shaped the way you show up for others now?
I always get the question about, "Do you have any regrets?" And that question was asked of me, and it made me pause, and I was thinking back to early on in my career. Then when I started in higher education back then, I did not have a mentor, and I
Mm,
think back to some of the decisions I made around contract negotiation. I think back to what the research says around women negotiating contracts, negotiating jobs, being afraid of being labeled as too assertive or too aggressive or, being coached or convinced to don't go in there asking for all that,
yes, yes.
just ask for
Be
the
happy,
minimum.
be happy
Yeah,
that
just
you
be
have it.
happy that you got
Yeah,
a job, that they want you. And I think a female mentor would have helped me navigate those waters more so than I did on my own. Those are areas that I always focus on when I say I wish I had a mentor sooner in my career. Would things have changed? Yeah, a little bit. Not a whole lot, but a little bit as I think about kind of how I positioned myself to advance in the academy on the early stakes of that, but I am very blessed that I had a mentor who kinda just came out of nowhere and took me under her wing, and
nice.
an American professor, by the name of Dr. Sandra Williams, who did not even know me, but that's a moment where people see things in you that you don't necessarily see in yourself.
Yes,
And that was an awakening for me, a teachable moment for me that mentors do serve a great purpose if you find the right ones or they find you.
yeah.
And so in that particular situation, she found me and she told me, she said, "I'm gonna help you navigate what's coming ahead of you." And at that time, I wasn't even thinking about being a chancellor. I was just trying to finish my doctoral program and trying to get a job in administration. That's what I
Yeah.
was thinking
Yeah.
about because I knew I was very interested in policy because policy changes everything. Policy leads to impact and action. I was just focused on that. But I think that mentorship piece is critical. And as I say, mentors and sponsors are very different in your life.
Yes.
Mentors, most of my mentors have been female. Uh,
Mhm.
Most of them have been African American females in higher education. My mentor conversations really focus on my profession, my personal life, family, my faith, having those types of conversations, the challenges I face. Sometimes they have to talk me down on something or say, it's going to be okay. This too shall pass.
Yes. Just sleep on it
But
a few nights before
yes,
you make a
yeah,
decision.
yes,
I've had
and
many
I
of
have to
those.
say they have been great in that area.
I think there's a distinction that's worth naming that you just raised between mentorship and sponsorship. So mentors advise and sponsors act.
Yes.
Which one do you think women in higher education leadership are most starved for right now?
I think both, but I also think we have to open up our minds to what a sponsor does and how a
Yes.
sponsor can help. And
Yes.
most of my sponsors have been men because higher education is still male dominated. But I was very strategic. And with men in those positions of sponsor, you keep it professional.
Yeah.
Nothing about faith, nothing about children and family. You
Mhm.
keep it professional. You have clearly stated to them what it is that you're seeking as far as position or your trajectory in higher education and help them help you get there because they are in rooms and in conversations that women are not or very few of us are in. So they being your champion, waving your flag, helping folks understand when conversations come up about well, who should we get to do XYZ? Well, have you heard about Carrie Dixon? She is doing great things over at X institution, and I think she would be great for us to consider. So that's what I see a sponsor's role as because mainly sponsors have the position that you want or that you seek, or they've been in that position. They may be retired. A few of my
Yes.
sponsors were retired, but guess what? They play golf still with people of influence. They still are in boards meetings, and serving on boards. They have been very good from the standpoint of professional development. But I don't talk to my sponsors the way I talk to my mentors because
Yes.
mentors just serve a totally different role for me.
Absolutely. So, speaking about Dr. Karrie Dixon doing some amazing things, NCCU is contributing over 500 million to the region. The AI Institute, the Tech Law Center programs that are first for HBCUs, not just your institution. This is the work of institutional leadership done at scale. What do you want the next generation of HBCU leaders, especially Black women, to understand about what it takes to build at that level?
Well, I want Black women to know and understand that preparation is key. Every experience, every opportunity to gain professional development, to be exposed to various ways of looking at things, various ways of thinking about things from the standpoint of your leadership style and how important it is that you are able to articulate what your goals are and what your vision is very critical to the success of any woman leader. I would also say surrounding yourself with great mentors and sponsors and thinking about it in a strategic way. You don't want just anybody. You want people who are really going to pour into you and really going to represent you and champion you in those rooms that you're not in. And also those mentors that are going to keep you grounded and keep you focused. I would say that there are many things that I'm very proud of. I'm very proud of the fact that as a leader, you can still have a personal relationship, a marriage, or
Yeah.
partner, and you can still have children. I think a lot of women think we have to make the choice of
Choice,
either
yeah. Mhm.
or not having it at all. I'm a great example of being able to have all of that. Now, did it take a lot of sacrifice? Yes. I
Yes.
remember my oldest daughter, when I was writing my dissertation, she was sitting on my lap, 8 months old. I remember walking across the stage when I was hooded with my doctoral degree, and she was in the audience cheering on mommy, not even knowing what was
It
happening.
was happening, right. Yeah.
But I had to sacrifice some things, with her at a young age
Mhm.
because I knew it was something I wanted to get done. But I also remember that this is my time to do it so that as
Yeah.
she grows up, she won't remember any of
Yes.
any of those things.
Yeah.
She's gonna remember the times that she had with mom and going on a college campus and doing the things that, or being exposed to what it was like to be
Yeah.
in higher education and watching your mom teach classes and do presentations. And that's what she's going to remember. And for my youngest daughter, I had her when I was actually in the grunt of my higher education trajectory.
Mhm.
So she's been exposed to many things that the oldest wasn't on the front end, but both of them looking at me as two daughters looking at their mom lead and lead with
Yes.
courage and lead with
Yes.
the sense of being my authentic self and really focusing on the main thing has really helped them as well, where they
Yeah.
have
Such a powerful
taken on,
model.
yes, great leadership opportunities as well. So I would just say be yourself, seek advice, take every opportunity of preparation and development, and you can do anything you set your mind to.
I love it. So you're 18 months in to NCCU. I want to give you some space to talk about what you're building there, not just the enrollment numbers, but the innovation, the community partnerships, the programs that are first. What do you want people to understand about what NCCU is becoming under your leadership?
Yes, well, we have surpassed 9,000 students, the highest enrollment the university has ever seen in the
Wow.
last 3 semesters that I've been here. So I am
9,000.
yes, over 9,000, actually 9,300 students. And so it's our largest enrollment. We have increased our retention by 77%. Students want to be here and they want to stay. And that's critical to the success of any university. That's definitely a point of pride. We are expanding access through innovation. We're looking at expanding our online programs. We have a significant number of adult learners coming back, military affiliated students, veterans.
Nice.
We are reaching adult learners. That's one of our goals as well, to increase our adult learners. And then when, I think about making sure that we are sustainable, making sure that financially we are rooted, financial footing is solid. We've been able to maintain our A3 status and our credit rating. Our alumni and donor engagement has increased 10%, which is above average, the national average. And
Powerful.
so, yeah,
Yes.
so people are excited. The energy is here. They want to give, they want to be a part of their alma mater. They want to understand the vision and how they can help. And I truly appreciate that. And another thing that I've been working on is really getting out there and building partnerships. When I applied for the NCCU position, I applied. One thing that was interesting to me is that the location of NCCU right close to the Research Triangle Park, where research is being the national companies are over there, Google, Cisco,
Mhm.
all those partnerships that we
Yeah.
have through our connection with research across North Carolina, but more specifically taking place in the Triangle area. Yesterday, we just had a ribbon cutting ceremony with LC Industries, who has invested in disability accessibility on campus, and Google. I mentioned the AI Institute and Cisco and PNC and North Carolina Innovation. And there's so many more who are coming to the table to say, hey, how can we work with NCCU and how can we build a partnership? Because our students need internships and they need jobs. And I want them to get those jobs that they desire when they graduate from NCCU. So just cutting edge academic innovation, adding new degree programs. We are on our way to reaching R2 status, research 2 status is our goal
Nice.
and our strategic plan. And We have 2 other institutes on our campus. I mentioned the AI Institute, but we also have the Bright Institute that is providing students with hands-on training in biomanufacturing and biotech, and it supports industry partners. I look at education pipeline to industry and work development and what that looks like. And then our BBRI addresses health disparities. I mean, we are in a community where there are a lot of health disparities disproportionately affecting minority and underrepresented populations. So these research institutes, we have a mobile unit that goes out into the community, 5 vehicles to do health screenings and vaccinations and testing within the local community. So all these things are really important to the success of the university. I could go on and on.
It's so exciting. And so many parents and our listeners, too, Black women, are really reevaluating where they encourage their children to attend college.
I'll also mention that we are the only HBCU in North Carolina with a school of law.
The only,
Yes,
okay, all right,
HBCU
school of
in North
law.
Carolina with a school of law. So we are
Look at there.
producing lawyers, attorneys, judges.
Lawyers, doctors, researchers,
Yes,
business folks. Hey, that's so exciting. If NCCU is not on your child's list to consider, then you are certainly missing an opportunity. You guys are at 9,300 in enrollment. You're going to hit that 10,000 and surpass
yes,
it with these programs, and it reaches to everyone. So not just your traditional student, your adult learners, your veterans, and then for people who just love this self edification, and that is also nice for community members. Chancellor Dixon, before we close, I want to do what we do on every episode of Revolutionary Leadership, pull out the blueprint, the actual framework underneath everything that you share today. And so I have 3 principles I want you to add to them. Principle 1, preparation is not always visible in the moment, from your time on campus to the decade that you spent at the UNC Systems Office working across 17 institutions did not look like leadership training, but it was. The work you're doing right now, even when it doesn't feel like preparation, may be exactly what equips you for the room you cannot see. Principle 2, crisis leadership is sequential, not simultaneous. You did not try to fix everything at once. You assess, you prioritize, you built a team. I built a team that believed in you and that you could also lead, and you moved in that order. Transformation is not a sprint, it's a sequence. So if you take on a 8-year-old problem, be prepared for a long-term solution. And then principle 3, being the first is infrastructure, not just an accomplishment. And you made that very clear today. Every door that you walk through as the first woman or the second woman becomes a door held open for someone else. First is not the destination, it is the design. That is the
Dr.
blueprint.
Brown, that was perfect.
Yeah, strategy over surrender, sequence over chaos, and first as a door we hold open for others. Yes, 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 yes. Chancellor Dixon, thank you. Thank you for your precision about what turnaround actually requires. Thank you for your candor about the cost of being first twice. Thank you for naming negotiation and sponsorship as gaps they are, and for showing up for younger women in the way you wish someone had shown up for you. This conversation is a gift to every leader who has ever been handed a mandate without the resources to match it. Listeners, you can connect with Chancellor Dixon on Instagram and Facebook at Eagle in Chief 13, on LinkedIn, and through her profile at nccu.edu. Everything is linked in the show notes. Chancellor Dixon did not walk into Elizabeth City State with a turnaround playbook. She walked in with 20 years of preparation, so she had not yet been given a chance to use. And the strategic clarity to know what to assess first, what to move on immediately, and what to let wait. That is not resilience, it's architecture. What she built at ECSU and what she is building at NCCU is a result of sequenced decisions, deliberate team building, and an unwavering refusal to let life support be the final word. She's also named something we don't say loudly enough, that Black women are still becoming first in 2026, and that has to change. That negotiation is a skill gap, that mentorship is not the same as sponsorship, and that preparation you cannot yet see the value of may be exactly what you need for the room you cannot imagine yet. This is the blueprint. So for leaders, identify one area in your organization that others have written off and ask what transformation might look like if you approached it with strategy instead of surrender. For organizations, examine whether your institution has ever asked a Black woman to lead a turnaround, and then ask whether you gave her the resources, the sponsorship, and the protection that mandate required. Resilience is not a substitute for institutional investment. For emerging professionals, the preparation you are building right now, even when it doesn't look like leadership, may be exactly what equips you for the moment you cannot see yet. Document your wins, find a sponsor, not just a mentor, and practice negotiating your worth before the stakes feel high, because by the time they are, it's too late to start. And for our listeners, I want to hear from you. Connect with me on social media at Revolutionary Lead and visit revolutionarylead.com. Tell me, where are you being asked to lead a turnaround without the infrastructure to support it? What preparation are you building right now that you cannot yet see the full value of? And who in your life is a sponsor, not just a mentor, who is willing to act on your behalf? Find me, tell me, because your story is tomorrow's blueprint. Chancellor Dixon, thank you. Thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. Thank you so much.
And now for my favorite part of the show. This is where women share their experience with my teachings.
Hello, my name is Pauline Rogers. I am the founder and executive director of the REACH Foundation, Reaching and Educating for Community Hope, based in Mississippi. For over 35 years, I've worked in the reentry space, supporting women and families impacted by incarceration, with a focus on housing, leadership development, and restoring dignity and opportunity. What drew me to work with Dr. Karrie was through the Alumni Cohort Network, Transcending Collective Leadership Institute at Columbia University's Beyond the Bars, was alignment. Alignment in purpose, in lived experience, and in shared commitment to transforming pain into power. I recognized that this was not just another leadership space, it was a sacred space for growth, truth, and accountability among women who carry both the weight and the wisdom of lived experience. One tangible way working with Dr. Karrie has transformed my leadership is in how I navigate challenges without internalizing them. Her frameworks help me to separate what's mine to carry from what is systemic, historical, and structural. That shift alone has strengthened my clarity, my boundaries, and my ability to lead without burnout. I've learned how to pause, process, and then proceed with intention, not reaction. That has been a game changer in both my personal life and in leading an organization that serves some of the most marginalized populations. What made this experience even more powerful was doing this work in community with other Black women leaders. There is something deeply transformative about being in a space where you don't have to explain your existence, where your story is not just questioned, but honored. Dr. Karrie didn't just teach frameworks, she cultivated an environment where those frameworks came alive through our shared stories and experiences. It was theoretical, it was lived, felt, and applied in real time. That combination created a level of depth and authenticity that I have not experienced in other leadership programs. To another Black woman leader, I would say this: working with Dr. Karrie is not optional, it is essential, especially if you carry both leadership and lived experience. This work helps you lead from a place of wholeness, not just survival. It equips you to be both effective and well. And in the work that we do, where so many people depend on our strength, that kind of grounding is not a luxury, it's a necessity. I'm grateful to Dr. Karrie for this cohort and her leadership and for the evolution of my leadership. Because when we heal and grow as leaders, our community don't just benefit, they transform.
Thank you for sharing your brilliance, your compassion, and your commitment to Black women, leading with power, ease, and strategy. Thank you for listening to Revolutionary Leadership. If today's conversation sparked something in you, subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and share this episode with another change maker in your life. Until next time, keep leading with purpose, joy, and revolution.